And God created great whales. Just that one line, from Genesis. It sort of hints at something big right from the start.
It really does. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Yes, welcome. This is where we take your curiosity, grab a whole stack of fascinating historical, literary sources, and really dig into what makes them tick.
And today, we're diving deep into whales. How people have seen them, thought about them, well, over centuries.
It's going to be quite a journey, honestly. We've got stuff from the Bible, early science. Well, science for the
It's
time.
folklore, literature, whaling logs.
Yeah.
It's a real mix.
Exactly. And our mission here is to chart how these views evolved, pull out the really compelling bits for you. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding this whole whale fascination.
And just to be clear, this isn't going to be some dry lecture. We're exploring this together.
Right. We're looking only at the sources provided, no outside stuff, no taking sides on anything tricky. It's all about seeing the whale through these eyes, these historical perspectives.
So shall we jump in?
Let's do it. Where do we start? Back at the beginning.
Makes sense. Let's start with those ancient and biblical views. We already mentioned Genesis. God created great whales. That sets a pretty significant stage, doesn't it?
Yeah, it immediately says these aren't just any creatures. They're part of the grand plan. Important from day one, kind of.
Precisely. And then you look at the book of Job, Leviathan. The description is incredible, making a path to shine after him.
Oh, yeah, I love that line. It's not just big. It's like awe-inspiringly powerful. It changes the water itself.
And the deep to be hoary in its wake. It suggests something almost primal, a force you have to respect, maybe even fear, just by its sheer presence.
Definitely fear. Which brings us to Jonah, right? The great fish.
Exactly. That story introduces this other side, the whale or great fish, as this potentially overwhelming, even punishing force. It's tied up with divine will consequences.
A real narrative powerhouse, that one. But then the Psalms have that line about Leviathan being made to play therein, in the sea.
It's such a contrast, almost whimsical, this colossal creature
Yeah.
playing.
But it doesn't stay whimsical, does it? Isaiah talks about punishing Leviathan, the piercing serpent, the crooked serpent, a dragon even.
That's a dramatic shift. It leans much more into the whale or Leviathan as this symbol of chaos, something monstrous that needs to be, well, overcome.
So why do you think that happens? Why this shift towards the antagonistic view?
Well, think about the ancient world and the ocean. It's vast, mysterious, dangerous. It kind of makes sense that the biggest, most mysterious things in it would embody both wonder and, threat.
So the unknown depths mirrored in the sheer size of the whale, it becomes a screen for projecting anxieties.
I think that's a big part of it, yeah. The untamed aspects of nature.
Okay, so moving on from those foundational views, let's get into early natural history and folklore. This is where the descriptions get really wild.
They really do. Like Holland's translation of Plutarch's Morals, the monster's mouth swallowing anything beast, boat, or stone, just gone.
Into the bottomless gulf of his paunch. It's pure, indiscriminate consumption. What's that say about how they saw its place in the world?
Well, it probably reflects a pretty limited grasp of marine biology, right? But it powerfully conveys scale, otherness. It's so big, it's outside the rules almost. A force that can just swallow up the human world.
And the scale just gets bigger. Holland's Pliny whales in the Indian Sea taking up 4 acres or arpents of land.
4 acres. It's almost abstract. The animal becomes geography.
It's mind-boggling. And Tux Lucian takes it a step further. The whale isn't just big, it's actively hostile, raising waves, beating the sea, open-mouthed.
Yeah, these accounts definitely blur that line between observation and, well, straight-up myth-making.
But then you get something like King Alfred recording others' narratives. Suddenly it's more practical. Horse whales, valuable teeth, catching 60 in 2 days.
Right. So alongside the monstrous, there's this emerging view of whales as a valuable resource, something to be hunted, utilized.
It's a weird mix. And Montaigne adds another wrinkle. He calls the whale a dreadful gulf, but then mentions the sea gudgeon hiding inside it for safety, sleeping in there.
That is bizarre, isn't it? It sort of pushes back against the purely monstrous idea. Hints at complexity, maybe, even if they didn't really understand it, like accidental sanctuary inside the danger zone.
Super strange. And Rabelais just shouts out Leviathan, linking it straight back to Moses. That biblical awe, it just keeps popping up.
It really does. And then Stowe's Annals brings it back to the concrete.
Yeah.
A single liver weighing 2 cartloads.
2 cartloads, the sheer volume. You can see why people started thinking about the resource potential.
And Lord Bacon in his version of the Psalms, uses that same powerful image, Leviathan making the seas like boiling pan. Pure power.
But Bacon's history of life and death shows a bit more nuance, maybe. He acknowledges the monstrous bulk, but also admits uncertainty about the actual size.
Right, and he highlights the incredible quantity of oil. So you see both things happening. The mystery endures, but the economic interest is definitely growing.
So this whole period is this amazing mashup of myth, awe, fear, and this dawning realization of, hey, there's valuable stuff in there.
Exactly. A real transition period.
Yeah.
Which leads nicely into how these ideas seeped into broader culture literature, common references.
Okay, literary and cultural allusions, like King Henry mentioning parmaceti for an inward bruise.
Parmaceti, spermaceti, that waxy stuff from sperm whales.
Right, so whale products are already part of, like, everyday medicine. Amazing.
And then, of course, Shakespeare, Hamlet. Very like a whale.
Such a simple line, but everyone knows it. Its vagueness almost says it all, right? It's this huge, maybe shape-shifting thing in the popular mind.
Definitely. Spencer's Fairy Queen gives us a more action-packed image. The wounded whale flying to shore, flies through the main. Speed, desperation, immense size.
And Sir William Davenant doubles down on the size, talking about whales whose vast bodies can trouble the ocean till it boil, just by being there.
Waller's Battle of the Summer Islands gets much more graphic. Fixed javelins in his side, a grove of pikes on its back. That's straight out of the Hunt.
You can almost feel the danger there. And then Hobbes.
Yeah.
Wow, naming his whole philosophy of the state Leviathan.
That's a huge metaphorical leap, isn't it? Elevating the whale to symbolize the immense power of the Commonwealth, this artificial man.
It shows how potent that symbol was. Pilgrim's Progress uses it too, but more like a warning. Man's soul swallowed like a sprat in the mouth of a whale.
Yeah, consumed by the world. It's a really effective image of being overwhelmed.
Milton, though. He goes full epic in Paradise Lost. Hugest that swim the ocean stream.
Or like a moving land spouting out to sea. The scale is just cosmic, almost elemental.
Fuller's Profane and Holy State has that weirdly poetic line about whales having a sea of oil swimming in them. Not accurate,
But a striking image of internal riches, yeah. Abundance.
Dryden's Annus Mirabilis makes them seem more predatory, lurking, waiting to swallow in the fry. Fits the poem's battle context, I guess.
And then we get back to the practical side with Thomas Edge. Cutting off the head, towing it ashore, the sheer labor involved.
It grounds it a bit. Sir T. Herbert's description is interesting, whale sporting and fuzzing up the water. A glimpse of natural behavior, maybe, though he calls it wantonness.
Yeah, interpreting it through a human lens. Schouten's voyage talks about seeing so many whales they had to steer carefully to avoid hitting them.
Just imagine. It shows how common they were in some places and the passive danger they pose just by existing.
A voyage to Greenland from 1671 is a gold mine. The ship's name, the Jonas and the Whale.
That story just wouldn't quit.
And it's got that fable about whales not opening their mouths, mentions mast lookouts, finding herring in a whale's stomach.
And a white whale. Even back then, it's this great mix of fact, folklore, and practical details.
Sybil's account from Scotland brings it right on shore. Whales stranding, yielding oil and baleen, and using the jawbones as a garden gate.
That's incredible. Talk about making use of things. Really brings the size home.
Then Richard Strafford's letter. He specifically wants to hunt the spermaceti whale, noting its fierceness and swiftness.
So a growing awareness of different types of whales and that some were, well, tougher targets.
Exactly. The sperm whale is starting to get a reputation.
Contrasted with the simplicity of the Any Primer, whales in the sea god's voice obey, back to that fundamental belief.
And Captain Cowley claiming whales were way more abundant in the south. 100 to 1. Shows exploration was revealing geographical differences.
Ulloa's account is
So.
less romantic. The insupportable smell of whale breath causing brain disorders. Yikes.
Yeah. A reminder it wasn't all majestic wonder. There were less pleasant aspects.
And Pope uses whalebone for petticoats in Rape of the Lock fashion. Just shows how integrated these materials were.
Goldsmith states it plainly. The whale is doubtless the largest animal in creation, a move towards clear scientific classification.
And his quip to Johnson is perfect. If you should write a fable for little fishes, you would make them speak like great whales.
It totally captures that sense of the whale as inherently grand, authoritative.
Cook's voyages mistaking a dead whale for a rock. People hiding behind it. Again, that sheer, unbelievable size.
Una von Troil's letters mention sailors carrying dung and limestone to scare whales away. Shows real fear. and these almost superstitious countermeasures.
Thomas Jefferson, in his Whale Memorial, echoes Strafford about the sperm whale. Active, fierce, demanding address and boldness.
That reputation was clearly solidifying. This wasn't just any whale. It was the challenge.
And Edmund Burke mentioning the Nantucket whale fishery in Parliament, that tells you how economically vital it had become.
Absolutely a matter of national importance, and his later comparison of Spain to a stranded whale, powerful image of helplessness despite size.
Blackstone defining whales as royal fish belonging to the king, more legal and economic weight.
Falconer's Shipwreck gives a quick poetic snapshot of the hunt, the barbed steel.
Cowper's poem compares a whale spout to the ocean serving the queen. A bit fanciful, but grand.
John Hunter's dissection notes the force of blood from the heart, a glimpse into the actual biology, the powerful internal mechanics. Paley's theology uses that great analogy, the whale's aorta, like the main water pipe at London Bridge, making immense scale relatable.
And Baron Cuvier classifying it as a mammiferous animal without hind feet. A huge step, moving it definitively out of the fish category for science.
Colnett logs Bermudseti whales at 40 degrees south, mapping their territory.
Montgomery's poem paints this epic prehistoric scene with dread Leviathan, still tapping into that ancient awe.
Charles Lamb just celebrates it. Mightier than any whale, fatter than any whale. Pure admiration for its superlatives.
Obed Macy's view of the ocean as Nantucket's green pasture for whaling. That's really poignant, a deep, almost agricultural tie.
Hawthorne gives us those concrete images again. The Jawbone Gateway, the monument for someone killed by a whale, makes the danger and the presence very real.
Cooper's pilot, the experienced whaler, identifying a right whale by its spout, calling it a rail oil butt. Practical, focused on the yield.
And whales on the Berlin stage, according to Goethe. Their cultural reach was spreading far beyond the docks.
Then the big one, Owen Chase and the Essex. The true story of a sperm whale deliberately sinking a ship. That must have sent shockwaves.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
It validated all the fears about the sperm whale's power and perhaps its intent.
Elizabeth Oakesmith's poem about the phosphorescent wake captures a bit of the beauty, the wonder amidst it all.
Scoresby gives us technical details, the sheer length of line a whale could pull, the sound of its tail, the mechanics of the struggle.
Thomas Beale points out the sperm whale's ferocity again, but also notes how little people studied its behavior despite hunting it relentlessly.
Yeah, the focus was purely on the hunt of the product, not the animal itself. Bennett's voyage echoes the dangerous disposition.
J. Ross Brown captures the excitement of the chase, spotting sperm whales, the human thrill of it.
The Globe Mutiny narrative, the Missionary Journal, both mention dangerous encounters with wounded whales, underscores the unpredictability.
Daniel Webster championing Nantucket's whaling industry. Again, national economic importance.
Reverend Cheever's account of a whaleman killed by a falling whale. The grim reality of the job.
William Comstock's narrative with that chilling mutineer quote, "I will send you to hell," shows the darkness that could surround these voyages, too.
McCulloch notes how searching for the Northwest Passage accidentally opened up new whaling grounds. Unintended consequences.
And that unpublished source suggesting whalemen actually helped find clues to the passage while chasing whales.
Kind of ironic, isn't it? Hunting one thing leads to discovering another.
Currents in Whaling mentions the distinct look of a whale ship, a specialized tool for a specialized job.
Tales of a whale voyager. Whale ribs used for arches. More of that integration into the human landscape.
The newspaper story about the Hobomack being taken and retaken, danger from humans as well as whales.
Crews in a whaleboat. Hints at the attrition rate, few returning on their original ships. Says a lot about the risks.
Miriam Coffin, that mighty mass emerging from the water. Pure spectacle.
The Ribs and Trucks chapter, comparing a harpooned whale's power to a vigorous colt, trying to find analogies for that strength.
Darwin observing whales near Tierra del Fuego. Calm scientific observation.
Wharton the whale killer.
Yep.
Another close call with a sperm whale. Constant threat.
And the songs. The Nantucket song celebrating the bold harpooner.
And the other one, calling the whale king of the boundless sea, captures both sides, the human hunter and the majestic creature itself. What a range.
It really is just this incredible tapestry of fear, awe, utility, myth, all swirling around this one animal long before Melville ever picked up a pen.
Absolutely. Which I suppose brings us right to the doorstep of the Pequod.
Yeah, Moby Dick. Let's dive into those early bits, the foreshadowing, how Melville sets it all up, Ishmael's reasons for going to sea.
Right, driving off the spleen, improving circulation. It sounds almost casual, doesn't it? Humorous even.
But there's that undercurrent of unease, that need to escape something on land. It sets a mood.
And then bam,
Mm-hmm.
Elijah, this strange prophet figure on the docks.
Asking about souls, dropping cryptic warnings about Captain Ahab, it immediately injects this spooky, fated feeling into the whole thing.
Suggests this isn't just any whaling voyage, there's something else going on.
Then you meet Peleg and Bildad, the Quaker ship owners. Quite the pair.
Yeah, Peleg's all gruff practicality, grilling Ishmael about his experience. Bildad's more outwardly pious, quoting scripture.
But it's Peleg who drops the first big clue about Ahab, right? Casually mentioning he lost his leg to a whale.
Yeah, a monstrous parmacetti. At that point, it just sounds like backstory, an occupational hazard maybe. But oh boy, does that seed get planted.
So Ishmael signs on, and Peleg gives that description of Ahab, grand, ungodly, godlike.
What a phrase. And he adds that Ahab's faced mightier, stranger foes than whales. Mentions college. Cannibals.
It builds Ahab into this larger-than-life, almost mythical figure before we even meet him. This isn't your average sea captain.
Name. Ahab. The defiant biblical king. It's dripping with symbolism, suggesting a collision course with fate, maybe.
Peleg warns Ishmael not to badmouth him on the ship, though. Mentions his wife and child back home. A tiny glimpse of the human behind the myth.
A fleeting one, yeah. Then you have Father Mapple's sermon. Powerful stuff about Jonah, obedience, the perils of the deep.
It basically lays out all the major themes of the book, doesn't it? Fate, faith, humanity versus nature.
Absolutely. And Queequeg's harpoon skills, signing on with his mark. He's established as this noble, capable figure from a different world. Bildad trying to give him a religious tract just highlights the cultural gaps.
That prophet, Elijah, pops up again, doesn't he? More warnings.
Yeah, asking about their souls again, calling Ahab Old Thunder, and that really weird line about his own arm only getting better when Ahab's gone adds a layer of curse, almost.
Plus more rumors about how Ahab lost the leg off Cape Horn. The mystery deepens.
Then the bustle of departure. Charity's gifts, little comforts before the harsh reality of the voyage. Peleg and Bildad seeing them off. It feels final.
And that first glimpse of Bulkington at the helm? Another figure suggesting depth, experience, maybe a different path than Ahab's.
But Ahab stays hidden at first. For days. The mates are in charge. Creates this real tension, this anticipation. Ishmael's unease just grows and grows.
Until the grand entrance. Ahab on the quarterdeck.
And Melville's description is unforgettable. The ivory leg, the scar running down his face, a man physically marked by his past, by his obsession.
His intensity, the pacing. You know immediately this voyage has one purpose.
And then he lays it bare. Moby Dick, the white whale, the one that took his leg, his vow of vengeance.
And the crew, they just get swept up in it. The grog helps, maybe, but they roar their agreement. They're bound to his quest now.
Ahab's soliloquy at sunset, talking about the Iron Crown of Lombardy, gives you a peek into his tortured mind, the crushing weight of this obsession.
Even Stubbs' dream about the leg and Flask's interpretation. It's dark humor, but it shows the crew is already fixated on Ahab's fixation.
Then the command, looky, look for whales, yes, but specifically, a white whale. No more ambiguity. The hunt is officially on.
Which leads into the cetology chapter. Feels like a pause, almost. Ishmael trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, trying to impose order, classify these immense creatures, the folio, octavo, duodecimo system. It's this very human attempt to grasp the ungraspable.
And he gives that context about the Greenland whale being the old king, but the sperm whale being the new reigning monarch of the fishery. Important background.
Plus descriptions of all the different species: right whale, finback, humpback, razorback, sulfur bottom, grampus, blackfish, narwhale, pillar.
So many. It paints this picture of a vast, diverse underwater world they're sailing into.
And that chapter also subtly shows the ship's social structure. Ahab alone, the mates and harpooneers together, Ishmael feeling isolated up at the masthead.
Right, that feeling of being tiny and vulnerable in this huge ocean.
Then the scene after Ahab throws his pipe overboard. His pacing gets more intense, the ivory leg digging deeper dents, visualizing his obsession growing.
And the ceremony. Drinking from the harpoon sockets. Ahab's wild oath against Moby Dick.
Really seals the deal, doesn't it? Though Starbuck's unease is palpable, he sees the madness in it.
Stubbs' comment about the chick pecking its way out of Ahab, cynical but sharp, sees the obsession consuming him from within.
The folksel scene, the sailors singing, Pip's fear. It shows the mood among the regular crew. The white whale is starting to haunt them too.
Ishmael reflects on how he got swept up in it all. And we get more history, more rumors about Moby Dick, the white forehead, the hump, the sheer terror he inspires. He's becoming legendary.
He's more than just a whale now. He's a symbol, an antagonist.
Encounters with other ships start acting like signposts, don't they? The albatross, silent and spectral.
Yeah, the lost trumpet, a failure to communicate. Ominous.
And the town hose story with its own deadly white whale encounter. More foreshadowing, more evidence of the danger.
Melville then takes us through chapters on pictures of whales.
Yeah.
The inaccurate old ones, the slightly better newer ones.
Whales carved on teeth, woodcuts, shows how humans have always tried to capture these creatures, wrestle with their image.
The chapter on the giant squid, the sperm whale's food, maybe the source of Kraken legends, adds another layer of deep-sea mystery.
And the whale line. Such a detailed focus on this simple rope, but it represents that vital, incredibly dangerous link between hunter and hunted.
It really sets the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
By this point, Melville has woven together history, science, myth, psychology, all pointing towards this epic confrontation.
It's amazing. The whale isn't just an animal, it's everything. A canvas for human fear, ambition, obsession, our whole relationship with nature.
Exactly. And looking back at all the sources we've touched on today, from Genesis to Goethe to the Essex, those core themes keep echoing. Size, power, mystery, profit, terror.
So wrapping up this deep dive, what are the main things we should take away from this whole exploration?
I think it's the sheer range of perspectives. Whales weren't just one thing. They were divine creations, monsters, commodities, symbols, catalysts for adventure and tragedy.
Yeah, that evolution is fascinating. From biblical awe to, calculated economic risk and literary metaphor.
And the constants. That sense of immense power, the vastness they represent, and the deep, often fearful mystery surrounding them. They really did capture the human imagination like few other creatures.
And we hope for you, listening, this has been a useful shortcut, pulling together all these threads, giving you those aha moments about why whales loom so large in our history and culture.
It's clear our relationship with them has been incredibly complex, driven by awe, certainly, but also by fear, greed, and just our ongoing struggle to understand the wildness of the world.
So here's something to think about as we finish. Considering this incredibly long and varied history of how humans have viewed whales, what does our enduring fascination with them actually tell us about ourselves?
Yeah. About our own place in the natural world, our fears, our ambitions, and maybe, how do these older views stack up against what we know scientifically today? Do they still resonate? Do they clash?
Definitely something to mull over. A vast ocean of thought, you might say.